Hello my fellow fountain pen enthusiasts. So I've got another pen news video today, and so today we're going to talk about 5 different fountain pens that are going to be a part of today's video. And then stay tuned for the end of the video. I'm going to kind of revisit the Pen BBS 492, really just kind of an update on how that pen's performing for me, whether or not I still enjoy it. It's been now a few weeks since I uploaded my initial video and thoughts and impressions of the pen. And then I will also talk a little bit about some of my upcoming future videos that I'm going to be doing and that are going to be happening in the near future. But let's go ahead and kind of jump in with our first fountain pen. This first pen that we're going to talk about is not a new pen necessarily. It's a pen that I don't own personally. I know there's been a couple of reviews already out on it so far. But that is the Cali Arts Ego, and that's the 3rd generation. So the really cool thing about this pen, I'm popping the first image up now. There's several different resin colors available on this pen. It comes with an unbranded fine nib, but I've also seen some sellers offering other nib choices. And most of that, of course, it's going to be a nib that they're going to replace the proprietary nib that they're using, that the company that's manufacturing these pens is using. So one of the sellers that I saw is offering it with a moonman nib, for instance. So I think it's another really kind of neat choice. It retails for around $25. I've seen it available on eBay. I've also seen it available through Etsy as well. The length of the pen is 138 millimeters. Pen diameter is around 13 millimeters, and the cap diameter is 14 millimeters. I don't know what the weight is of this pen, but here we kind of see several different colors. I think, again, very, very attractive looking colors. The pen to me kind of gives you that vintage vibe or vintage feel. You kind of got a dual fold style design. It's with the flat ends. The clip itself definitely looks somewhat vintage, and then it has that wide cap band as well. Moving on to pick number 2. Here we see some darker resins in this image. I really like the colors and on this specific image on these fountain pens. These pens specifically kind of remind me a little bit of the LIY Mountain Series fountain pens. For those of you that maybe own one of those pens or know what I'm talking about, the difference is with this pen, retailing for $25, around that price range. Most of those LIY pens are going to retail for the high 60s, low 70s for most of their pens. So I think when you talk about this pen and compare it to that, I think this could be a really good alternative if you really are interested in those LIY pens as far as just the look and the color of them. This could be a good alternative if you don't want to spend that much money. Pick number 3, again, we see some of the different colors here kind of lined up in a display tray. And then pick number 4, we get a nice up close look at the specific cap band as well as the clip. And again, that clip definitely kind of gives you that vintage vibe with it. Nice wide cap band. As you can tell, they've got their Cali Arts logo on that cap band as well. These 2 different resins that they chose for this image, definitely you can see some transparent properties with them as well. Definitely very attractive pieces of resin. So on our next image here, we're actually taking a look at the feeds. Feeds, very basic, your stamped feed, just a basic plastic feed that we see on a lot of Chinese pens. As you can tell, it looks like we have a removable nib housing, so it should be pretty easy to change out the nib if you were wanting to. So if you wanted to change it over to, say, a Yovo nib or something else. And then our next image, kind of get an up close look at the nibs themselves. These nibs kind of, to me, they look a little bit like something that I've seen in a few different Indian fountain pens. That's not necessarily a bad thing, just kind of look like that as far as their shape and their overall design of them. And then moving on to pick number 7, here we actually see, this is coming from that specific seller that has this available on eBay with the moonman nibs. They only have 2 colors available, but here again we see a number 6 size moonman nib. So if you already own a Moonman fountain pen, you're interested in this pen, that could be an alternative. They do also just sell Moonman branded nibs on eBay and even Etsy for that matter, that you can just purchase outright. So again, kind of gives you the idea that the nib would be pretty easy to change out. And then pick number 8, again, just getting an up close look of that nib. So Moonman nibs I've worked very well. I think I have not had an issue with any Moonman nib that I've owned. So I think if you can get that to work on that pen, and just maybe even upgrade it to an extent as well. Very attractive pen. I don't personally own one as of yet, but I definitely am strongly considering purchasing one in the near future, especially for the price point that they're being offered at. All right, so moving on to pen number 2 now. So I'm going to pop the image up, and as you can tell, we are taking a look at the WingSung 699, but not with a vacuum filler, but with a piston filler. Now, this just goes to show, this is something that WingSung does, I think, very well. Probably better than any of the other Chinese fountain pen manufacturers, in the sense that they're able to take a specific model and kind of reinvigorate that model over a period of time, sometimes a few years, similar to the WingSung 601. You know, we had the 601 launched. It was, you know, really came with a lot of, you know, it's well-rounded fountain pen. A lot of people enjoyed it. And then they launched the 601A. Then we saw different filling systems. You know, initially it was launched with that kind of vintage vacuumatic filler with the diaphragm. And then we had one that had a piston type filler. And then we saw it, you know, launched with more of a Schaefer style nib. And then they upgraded, or they changed the cap design. Just a lot of different things that they did over a period of time with the 601. We've even seen some changes to the 626, whether it be different colors offered, just different things that they've done. I think they do a pretty good job with that. The other nice thing about this is this pen is going to be offered in an extra fine, a fine, and a medium as well. And it's going to retail for around $20 to $24, which I think is a great price range for what you're getting. Now, as you can see in this first image, this is kind of the, you got a clear barrel here. You can see the piston mechanism very well. You've got that smoky section, the blind cap, and then of course your cap itself is kind of got that smoky look on the inner part, and then you've got a dark finial there. Very attractive looking pen. If you're not a big fan of the vacuum filler, then this could definitely be a good alternative for you. Pen that has a decent weight to it. I would imagine this pen from a weight perspective being not as heavy, because you don't have that metal rod in the middle of the pen. But you know, I don't know that for a fact. Obviously you're gonna probably not get the same potential ink capacity, but the trade-off there is you're not going to have to deal with some additional components that sometimes can make the pen difficult to clean, as well as maybe less things to maintain over a period of time too. So that could be another nice selling point for this pen. Here I'll show another image of the pen, same color here. This is just in its full capped form. Again, to me, just an elegant, striking design. I think it's very attractive. In image number 3, we're actually going to see the blue one. I really like the blue color. It's a darker blue, not quite navy, kind of in between navy and royal blue. You can definitely tell it's got the transparent properties to it. I think that gold really pops on this pen. I just think it looks really nice. And then finally, image number 4. Here we just kind of see some different nibs stacked up with this pen. Again, it's nice that it's being offered with the option of a medium nib for those of you that maybe would like a little bit broader line, and that will suit your writing style better. So I think for around $25, $20 to $24 is pretty much what I saw the pen offered for. I think great price range. Again, for some of you, it may even be a little bit of an upgrade if you're not a huge fan of vac fillers. So WingSung 699, I've seen it available through eBay, as well as I think I did see a couple on Etsy, but most of the ones I saw were available on eBay. Now, our next fountain pen. And hopefully I pronounced this correct, but I'm assuming you pronounce this Jamal, Jamal fountain pen. And I really don't know anything about this fountain pen manufacturer. I know this pen has been out for a little while. I popped the first image up here. Now, the first thing I noticed when I first saw this pen is it's very reminiscent of the Opus 88 fountain pen. Of course, it is also available in a clear finish and a matte finish. Now, I've already ordered one of these pens. I ordered the matte finish. I really like the look of that pen. This pen is available, from what I've been able to tell, for most part with an extra fine or a fine nib. Now, the nib is a number 5 size nib, so it's not going to be your standard number 6. The length of this pen is around 138 millimeters, so about the same size as our Cali Arts. The weight of the pen is 15 grams. The diameter is around 11 millimeters. So not as thick of a pen. The weight doesn't surprise me that much because really it's an eyedropper. So it's going to increase in weight when you put the ink in the pen first and foremost, but there's nothing else in there as far as weight goes. I've seen the pen listed for sale for around $25 and as high as $38, depending upon what seller you purchase it from. So there are some different options out there. Now, as far as this pen manufacturer, from what I've been able to gather, they're mainly known for their pen inks, not so much their fountain pens. But I think it's kind of cool to see someone else entering that Chinese fountain pen market and offering something different. I don't own an Opus 88. I've kind of wanted to over the years own one, but I haven't purchased one yet. I did think, and I think one of the viewers, one of you commented on a video, I did think it would be interesting to maybe review this pen alongside the Moonman C1 and just kind of compare a little bit on quality and craftsmanship, and if whether or not, which pen I would prefer to use. So I have ordered this pen, so it is again on its way. Here we see in our second image, here we kind of get a look at another look at the pen. I'll pop up a third image here, and again, kind of be able to see the differences between the matte finish and the clear finish. The matte finish to me just looks, I like the look of that pen a lot. Here we kind of see the nib up close and personal, as well as the feed. Feed looks a little bit different. The feed to me kind of gives that vibe of like a Schmidt or like a German styled feed. The nib itself, we'll see how the nib performs. I would be a lot more excited about this pen if it did have a number 6 nib. I think it would just look a lot better. It's not definitely an oversized pen, so it'll be interesting to see what the pen looks like in person and comparing that to some of my other eyedroppers that I own. It may compare more to a Moonman M2 than that of a Moonman C1, of course. Might be a good pen that I could put a Delike nib though on. Now here we get a good image of the section as well as the nib and feed housing. I like the fact that they did this. It kind of shows you those two parts separated. As you can tell, it kind of gives you where the O-rings are located. So similar to a lot of pens, Pen BBS does this. We have the O-rings on the nib and feed housing, as well as there's an O-ring at the end of the section there to kind of shut off the ink so it's not leaking out the section. So I think, again, nice design elements. Here we see the next image, we kind of see some of the packaging with the fountain pen. Very understated packaging. I think it's a good design. No issues there or complaints from me. So I'm excited to get this pen. It'll be interesting to see it in person. It reminds me a fountain pen that it's like really pre-Moonman, definitely pre-Moonman M2, but I can't remember the name of it. I know Chris Rapp owns the pen, but it reminds me kind of that pen as well. So it'd be interesting to see if he gets one of these pens and reviews it and compares that to his original, what I would call the original Moonman fountain pen. I don't know if it's really the original, but it's the first one I can remember. So again, excited for this pen. I paid about $27 for mine. I got it from a seller that I've purchased before, but as I stated before, I've seen it for as low as $25. All right, so moving on to our next pen, we have got really nothing new about this pen, but it just again kind of shows what WingSung does. We have the WingSung 3013, and this pen is been released in some updated colors as well. I know some people have had issues with their WingSung as far as corrosion goes on the actual rod. I have not personally had any issues with either one of my WingSung. I actually have the WingSung 3013 as well as the Paley, was it 013 as well, and I have not had any issues with either one of those fountain pens. The only issue I did have with the 3013 so far is the screw in the cap has started to corrode. I've had that in a couple of my Chinese fountain pens though. I figure over time I may have to replace the screw or whatnot, but it's not something that I'm really worried about right now. But here we see it available in some different colors. I think again, kind of just another really smart idea by WingSung. Nothing extremely exciting here, but I think just again, just to see this pen available in different colors, I still rather enjoy my 3013s. I just cleaned out both of them recently, but they were inked up for several months, no writing issues. In fact, I'm debating if I'm going to take my blue one to work with me every day, and it might be my replacement to my 601 because I'm still trying to find a replacement for that. Here's our final image here. This is kind of like a reddish orange color, like an amber color almost. I think it's a very attractive looking fountain pen. Again, this is a vac filler that is listed by some sellers under $5. I mean, I don't think you can go wrong with that. I mean, you sometimes can't get, I mean, under $5 for a fountain pen, I think is a steal, especially if it's a fountain pen that's going to write well. So, I mean, even if it's going to have a few problems here and there, I think I haven't had any issues again with my specific two models that I own, and I think it's a good fountain pen. All right, so we have our last fountain pen in this list, and I'm not entirely certain. I might destroy this name, and if I do, I apologize, but this is the Hongdian. I'm going to say Hongdian fountain pen. Now this specific model is the 517D, and this is the matte metal finish, and I'm popping the first image up. This is really kind of a cool, I think an attractive looking fountain pen, a little bit more, definitely more unique as far as when you compare it to the other pens that are on this video. And I've been kind of looking at a few different models of this brand, and this specific one retails for around $15. The nib itself is an extra fine, but it's a bent nib, which I think is cool. The length of this pen is 138 millimeters, so again, about the same size as the other pens we have listed. The diameter of it is 12 millimeters, so decent diameter. The weight for this pen is 24 grams, so definitely with it being an all metal pen, a little bit heavier. I'm usually not super duper crazy about metal fountain pens, but this one I like because it has the matte finish. So in image number 2, we kind of see the pen here. Again, it looks like, from what I can tell, a number 5 size nib, which is not that big of an issue. But with the section, I'm always curious on metal pens on if I'm going to enjoy this section specifically. Especially if the section's made out of like a metal type material. For me, if my hands start to get sweaty or my fingers do, it's very uncomfortable to write with. But this one with that matte finish and having that additional texture to it, I think would be a really nice pen to potentially write with. I like the fact that it's kind of got that black finish to it as well, kind of an understated minimalistic design to it. Now here we see the nib options, and actually we have an extra fine, a fine, and a bent nib. So I misstated before just a moment ago. So again, kind of gives you a couple or a few different nib options. That bent nib option is probably going to be more closely related between a fine / medium, debating upon what your writing angle is. But I think a really cool pin. And then in our final image with this pin, you see the case that you would probably receive it in. So it's going to come with that kind of metal styled case. So definitely something, I think, a nice design for that pin. So again, that one retails for around $15, and that is the Hongdian 517D in the matte metal finish. Very, very attractive pin. So those are our 5 pins we have for this video. If there's anything I missed or anything that you think I should have covered, please comment down below. Some of the pins that I covered today were actually because of some of the viewers that have asked or requested these pins be on past pin news videos. So thanks to all of you out there that are also keeping up with different pins that you see as well. I'm able to get these on these videos. Now, moving on to kind of our next subject, and for those of you that are interested or care to know, so I've had my Pin BBS 492. I've been using it quite a bit the last few weeks, and I still really like this pen. It writes very consistently. I have not had any issues as far as leaking or anything like that. As far as from a quality perspective, I had not one single issue. As you can tell on the video a little bit, that ink gets past that first part to the piston, but then it doesn't get past that second one. So no issues as far as that goes. When the ink goes down, it kind of just stays there. You know, I haven't had it in an inverted, you know, with the nib facing down for an extended period of time to see how much of this ink would actually physically come down. But for me, that's not an issue. I know that this piston piece can potentially be removed for cleaning purposes. So I think from a cleaning perspective, it should be pretty easy. Really, I enjoy this pen for 2 big reasons. Well, I guess three. I like the look of the pen. I think it's really cool. It's different than anything that I own. The part of that is because of the filling mechanism, but I really, very similar to my 456 fountain pens. The section is similar. It has that perfect kind of just minimal concave, right? Almost not quite in the middle, but almost, with that flare out. It just suits how I like to write very well. And the nib on this pen it's a medium nib, and it writes flawlessly. It gives a nice line width for my taste, and it's just smooth. It's not overly wet. It's not overly dry. I am using some a Pin BBS branded ink in here too, which I don't know if that always has something to do with it, but as far as the ink combo that you use. But I'm usually not a huge fan of Pin BBS nibs. That's really my only knock whatsoever on Pin BBS as a pen manufacturer, is their nibs, and sometimes why I go with other fountain pens than I do with Pin BBS, even though I think they're beautiful and they make amazing pens. But this one, the nib, is by far my most favorite, and this is quickly becoming one of my most favorite pens to use. Now, I'll keep all of you updated. I'll do a more thorough review maybe in a few months on how it's performing. But I wanted to give that update because I know some people, some of the comments that I had on my video was about, you know, just the pen's really cool, but once I heard the price tag associated with the pen, it's not for me, and this and that. But I think, again, the price is all dependent upon what you're willing to pay. But I think this one is definitely a keeper. It is, again, quickly becoming one of my most favorite pens in my collection, bar none. And that's going up against pens that are 2 and 3 times the price of this pen. So it's a nice pen. Now, as far as upcoming reviews go, so I have gotten my Moonman M800, and I did a review on this pen. So I will post it in probably a little while after I actually post this video. I want to post this video first. And I'm thinking about getting a Bach titanium nib. So if I get that, I'll obviously do a review on how it performs. But stay tuned for this video here. And then I'm also going to revisit a couple pins. One of those being the pin BBS 268 as well. As you heard me state before, I have ordered the Jamal fountain pen as well. So I will review that when it comes in. And then I'm going to revisit a couple other fountain pens that I've had now for quite a while for a couple different reasons, whether it be because of quality, whether it could be a concern, or it could just simply be because I want to kind of maybe reshare my opinions on those pens for any multitude of reasons. But I will, the M800 will be another review that I'll have coming up. And I was in the review, I will compare the nib to a moonman nib as well, just to kind of give an idea of that quality. Is the additional price for the Bach nib worth paying for it versus if you got it with just a regular moonman nib and save potentially, you know, $30. So I will be comparing that in the video, so stay tuned for that. Outside of that, I think that's really about it. I hope all of you enjoyed the video. Please comment down below if you own any of the pins that I talked about today, especially the Cali Arts, really any of them. Comment on kind of your personal experiences with them. It always helps me too, because I learned from all of you just as much on really kind of helping me make a pin decision or purchase. If I have several of you that are saying, man, those Cali Arts pins are amazing, I love them, or one of the other pins I listed, that might kind of help me make a decision as far as what I'm going to purchase for my next pin. Until next time, everyone, please take care out there. I know it's been pretty crazy in the world lately, so be safe, take care, be healthy, and I'll talk to all of you later. Bye-bye.